When you grow up in the States, you really don't know level. You just see things on TV, and the US system, even back then when I was growing, wasn't developed. It still isn't developed to where it needs to be in Europe.
What is your biggest frustration with North American players that want to be professional?
My biggest frustration with North American players is entitlement. They need to play on the best pitches. They have the best shoes. They have $500 shoes and a $5 touch is crazy. They don't know how to read the game properly, balance, second counterattacks, why you make movements. They play the game with no pressure. I was almost delusional. And then when I went to England, I said, wow, this is conference football. This is League Two football. This is championship football. It wakes you up and say, okay, I'm very far away. And I think a lot of players in the States need to feel that and understand that. I was embarrassed to go to the coach and say, Coach, feeling a bit today. I was embarrassed. And now you had captains that were like, fucking get up, deal with it. Hey, clean my boots, please. And you did it out of respect. That's done. Now you got the likes of Pogba doing this and on TikTok. And it's like, I've had talented guys come up to me and shake my hand and be like, Coach, thank you so much. I'm going to quit football. I'm not going to do 3 years in the non-league scene and waste time away from my family and maybe make it. That brings me happiness too. Not because they quit, because I was able to close the door that maybe no one ever told me how this road works.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Select Generation podcast. Today, I am really excited for the episode. We've got Joe Funicello, who is the head coach, owner of Olimpia Satu Mare in Romania. He's also the owner of SoccerViza. And I am excited for this podcast because I think it's going to be interesting from a player's perspective. The questions that I want to ask Joe about his opinion, his perspective on North American players trying to make a name for themselves if it isn't just Division One college. I get a lot of players that tell me they want to play in Europe. I get a lot of players that tell me they want to be a pro. And I think that if you don't have a direct pathway, or let's say that you don't play in the MLS or the USL, there are a lot of pathways and opportunities for you as a player, but you really have to go and find them. And I think Joe's done a really good job of creating pathways for players and kind of helping players navigate different routes, different pathways, just in going Division One, just in going to the USL or the MLS. So first off, Joe, thank you for your time. And for someone listening to this podcast that doesn't know who you are, why is your story important for North American footballers?
Well, first, Sam, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it and the kind words. Um, I think my story is important because I was delusional when I was growing up in the States, thinking I could be in the Premier League or I could play in second league in Spain because, when you grow up in the States, you really don't know levels. You just see things on TV and the US system, even back then when I was growing, wasn't developed. It still isn't developed to where it needs to be in Europe. And I was almost delusional. And then when I went to England, I said, wow, this is conference football. This is League Two football. This is championship football. Because I had the opportunity to train with different teams at all those levels. It wakes you up and say, okay, I'm very far away. And I think a lot of players in the States need to feel that and understand that. I always say to players, like, if you haven't played a non-league football game, you have no idea what football is.
How do you think that youth football is different to men's football?
Youth football? Well, I mean, youth football, you still play it because you love it, and there's still a level of support there, from family, from coaches. They're not. There's some programs that are very hard on kids, but obviously you're a kid, so there's always that factor. When you get into men's football, it matters. There's money on the table. Clubs are spending money in order to survive, in order to, move up the ladder, and that pressure just becomes more.
So, because when I speak to a lot of players and especially coaches, for example, in the NCAA, and they're saying, yeah, but we need someone who's ready for men's football. You're playing at the Division Two level against 23, 24-year-olds. And I'm sure for you, when you're coaching your team, you need people that are ready to waste time, who can talk to the referee, who can manage a game, who know when you're winning 1-0 and there's 10 minutes to go, and you need to, yeah, waste time, kick the ball out, kind of the dark arts. And I ask you this because there's a lot of players who want to be professional. They go into a professional environment and there's different aspects of the game that they need to learn. So in terms of like the dark arts, how is youth football different to men's football?
Well, I mean, you said it. There's game management. There's how to manage a game, how to manage the referees. You don't see that at the youth level. You just play. I mean, you look here. You got some of the experienced players that'll kill. Like last 10 minutes. Let's say we are we're getting forward, we're doing well, we have the better of the play, and then all of a sudden you got a senior player who's played what for 6, 7 years in the first division. He goes down, and he knows how to waste time, or he knows how to speak to the referee, and these things, and especially here in Romania, the games are very manipulated, but these things have an impact on the game, and they slow the tempo of the game down. Just things you don't see in youth football, and you don't understand them until you actually experience them. You know what I mean?
So for you, Joe, I want to talk a little bit about SoccerViza and your kind of journey in running your operations. Like, so you are from the US, you moved to Europe, and you were obviously pursuing the pro dream. Why did you start SoccerViza?
Because many reasons. The main reason was to give players a chance that I never got, but to give them the reality. I think there's a lot of programs out there, and they're all path to pro, and I don't want to say that. I don't want to say I'm path to pro. I'm a place you come to realize if this life is for you or not. We own a real professional team in a non-league setup. We train every day. We try to create the most professional environment we can, but we're a real football club that doesn't have millions of dollars. And there's pressure, there's fans, there's things that a residency program can't give you. There's a person that's spending his own money to run a club, and he's going to tell you exactly why or why not I would sign you. And of course, we have those dark horses who come in and we send to FC Cincinnati, or we had a boy go to Benfica, we had a boy go to Setúbal, we had a boy go to um, Hong Kong Premier League. We have those guys that come in, but most of the guys that come in need to start in a lower league or non-league setup, if that makes sense. And I think I'm not going to sit in your face and smile and be like, yeah, great customer service. Let's go play on the best pitches. And that's not us. We're going to give you the truth and what it's like.
At Satu Mare, I know obviously you're big on developing players. How do you balance developing and winning?
That's a tough one. We have a $500,000 budget here that we spend. Everyone else in our league is about 750 up. We're the lowest, and the next lowest 750. And everyone else who's at the top half of the table has a 1 to 2 million euro budget. Um, it's hard because I can say I want to develop players, but at the same time, that's the players I can't afford is the younger players, if that makes sense. But it is important because we're basically rebuilding this club from nothing. So we have to start with the youth and kind of bring them through to get first team games, to really get experience. And that's what's important to us because we're not going to be able to spend the money that other teams in our league can spend, if that makes sense.
Why did you buy a club and why didn't you start a club from scratch?
It's a great question. So we did start a club from scratch in Costa Rica, and it was absolutely amazing. And sometimes you always think the grass is greener on the other side. So we had a hotel, we had a restaurant, we had a training facility, we had a bus. I mean, we owned everything, and we literally did it from nothing. And it was amazing. But we were having players coming into our residency, and then they'd have to spend money to come into our residency, either play for our pro team, and if they didn't make our pro team and we didn't have any foreign spots left, we wanted to buy a team in a realistic place. We looked in Portugal. It wasn't a great place to sign North Americans. Most of our clients are from North America. We looked in Spain, respectfully, not a good place for North Americans. We we agreed terms in Portugal and agreed terms in Italy. The visa situation, the foreign, it's crazy. So we picked a country where I can get year visas like this and I can have a lot of foreigners. That's why we picked Romania.
Interesting. I want to talk about this because I don't think that players understand, and kind of similar to yourselves. Obviously, we operate a club in England, we operate a club in Spain, and those two countries, I think I speak to a lot of agents and programs. Obviously, there's a lot in Spain. I think Spain is really good for development. I think Spain is really good for putting players in a situation to develop them and get them better. I think England the same. I think it's two different, completely different styles of football. England obviously more direct, Spain obviously more tactical, more technical. And I think that players don't do a lot of research about the visa and also maybe programs. It's difficult for programs to kind of talk about the visa and getting to other places. One of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you about going to Romania is because I'm not sure your business model or how it works, etc. But to get players over to you, I assume that one of the things that they say to you is, yeah, but Joe, why would I go to Romania when I can go to Spain? If
200% all the time, all the time.
I was a player and I tell you that, what do you tell me?
I say the exact same thing you just said. Are you educated on how it works? I think Spain's an amazing country for you to go develop in, but where's it pushing your career? And that's the truth. You know, you need a certain amount of national team games. You need to get paid a certain amount of money to get a visa to have a professional contract. And it's hard. It's not impossible, but it's very, very difficult. And a lot of them don't know that. And they're like, really? A lot of them think they can play in England. Look, if I could buy a club anywhere, it would be in England. Like I would love to buy it. Why? Because I played non-league, and when Saturday and Sunday comes, even in non-league, you feel like a professional football. It's crazy. The environment and the culture you can't match. And maybe Germany's the only place because I haven't been there, and I think it has a similar stuff. But I enjoy. I played for Corinthian Casuals in the seventh division in the Ryman South, and even then, I felt like, wow, this is. I love this.
So for someone listening to this that's gone, hang on a minute, I've sent my kid to Spain or I've sent my kid to England and I think he has a real shot. Joe didn't have a visa. How did you play in that environment in England without a visa?
Well, that's a great question. So I have an Italian passport. I was actually born in Italy. I moved to America when I was 5. I moved back to Italy when I was 16 and played in Salernitana's Primavera team. Never got to the first team, but was in their youth setup. So back then, England was part of the EU, so I could live there, you know. And I was at Aldershot. I was on trial at Charlton for a month. That was an amazing experience with Alan Pardew. Absolutely amazing. And then I went to Aldershot and I didn't play much. And I went to Ashford Town, Middlesex, and I went to Corinthian Capitals. The
So
last.
So I think that the more time I've spent here in England and I've talked to people in football, you realize the mentality between Americans and Europeans in terms of football, especially English people. And the more I talk to coaches and I talk to players, you really realize that they are obsessed with football, that they cannot live without football, and that they really do it because they love it and they don't want to do anything else. And I think in the US, you go to college because it's kind of like it looks nice on Instagram. You go to college because it's like a status thing, or you play soccer because it's a status thing because you want your kid to play soccer. And my question to you is, I get the impression that you love football. You're obsessed with football. Were you different to all of your friends in your mentality? Did your mentality shift when you came to England? Why are you the way you are? Why do you love football so much?
To be fair, you hit the nail on the head. I love football. I love the smell of the grass. I love everything. I love everything about football. You know, and yeah, it did change more when it came to England because I saw it was real and it was a real passion. One of my dreams, it sounds crazy, is hopefully I can make enough money and retire one day and just play non-league football and have. I'm dead serious because I love it so much. Like,
But why?
um,
Why? Because someone might listen to this and be like, "Yeah, he says he loves football. Everyone loves football. Why do you? What do you love?"
how can you explain love when you just love something? You love it, and it's everything. Like just the passion behind it, the way people speak. Everything from Sky Sports and being able to watch all the games at once. I don't know. I just love the culture. I love football. When I was a kid, my dad used to put the Serie A on, and I just loved going in the backyard, putting the jersey on or the kit on, and running around changing kits. And I just love it. I don't know. My friends came to England with me. We went on trial at Gray's Athletic. They were in the conference then before they went into administration and Weymouth, and they're like to play fifth division. I'm like, guys, this is better than I played in the MLS Reserve League. Are you serious? This is better than the MLS Reserve League in 2005 and 2006. I said, I would love to play. And they're like, no, I'm not playing fifth division. I'm not going to have a career. I loved it.
What are I want I think you're really interesting about your trialing experiences and I watch some of your content and I think this guy gets it. He knows what it's like. He knows what it takes and he's willing to run through a brick wall to sleep on a couch or sleep on a bus or do anything to kind of go and get this opportunity. And then I speak to one of my players that's coming to me and saying, "Hey Sam, have you got any pro trials for me or have you got any semi-pro trials for me?" And I'm thinking like you just missed training because your hamstring hurt a little bit or I don't know, other little things like you're sick a little bit.
Yeah, I get that all the time. I have a boy here now. Ridiculous. What a player. He's my center back. And he's every training. So how are you ever going to make it? Do you think anyone cares about you? Does anyone know your name? You're playing for Olimpia Satu Mare. Go somewhere else. Do you think they know who that club is? And you have all the ability. And you're right. And that was the difference with me. And that's probably why I made it to a decent level. I mean, I made what, 7,000 euros a month? That was the best career, it was my best contract. But a hamstring, I was embarrassed to go to the coach and say, Coach, feeling a bit today. I was embarrassed. And now, and football's changed. I mean, that's probably something we can get into as a conversation. Football's changed. When I grew up, it was like you had captains that were like, fucking get up, deal with it. Hey, clean my boots, please. And you did it out of respect. That's done. Now you got the likes of Pogba doing this and on TikTok, and it's like I understand generations and things change, but it comes back to that hamstring thing you said. Are you playing the game because you really love it and you just don't want to get off the pitch, or you just love the feeling of being a footballer,
How do you build a team culture as a coach where players want to die for the badge?
Honesty. Honesty is the first and foremost thing. Letting them know that you don't know everything and that um but they're going to trust you to go into war with them. I think that's the biggest thing, letting them see that you're here for the right reasons. A lot of coaches, when I was playing, I never had a coach put his arm around me. It was like his career was more important than the club because he knew he only had like maybe 2 years there. And that's why I started my own club and didn't go into, I had some offers to coach some good places, but I don't think I could go somewhere, be there for 2 years, and I can't build the culture because when I grew up, you had clubs that had managers there for a while that built cultures. Angelotti at Milan, Ferguson at United, um, Benitez at Liverpool, Wenger at Arsenal. Like you had culture, and I think for me to get a player to perform is just letting them know I care about their career more than them. You know,
What's the most common question that you get from a player that wants to be a pro?
what do you think I need to improve on? That's probably the one that they like. They don't even process like what it's crazy. Like they don't understand what being a pro is, and like consistency is the biggest thing, right? Like you got to be a pro is consistent at the level they're at. They're consistent and they improve on that consistency all the time. But a lot of the guys that come through us, they don't even know what it's different for you. You grew up in that culture. You could get promoted and relegated. You knew that if you went on trial with a team and you didn't make it, maybe you didn't play football for a deep like for these guys, they always can jump from club to club. So they don't even know what the real environment is and what type of questions to ask.
What is your biggest frustration with North American players that want to be professional?
My biggest frustration with North American players is entitlement. They need to play on the best pitches. They have the best shoes. They have $500 shoes and a $5 touch. Is crazy. They don't know how to read the game properly, balance second counterattacks, why you make movements. They play the game with no pressure. Like I never forget, I went to England and I like passed the ball to a striker and he didn't hit the target, but it was a good strike. I'm like, fucking good strike. And my fucking captain, not a good strike. Time to fucking hit the target. And in America, when you shoot, it's like, hey, Johnny, that was a good shot. Good job. And I think that's something that changed in me when I went to Europe. And Americans don't understand that.
Is interesting because for our club in Bournemouth, I think in our preseason, the coaches we have English coaches and they really struggled with terminology to the players. For example, like it sounds really stupid, but like man on or back four in a straight line or step or shoulders or I don't know, get in behind and the American players they don't really understand the terminology. How what question can I ask you here? But like, how is just like basic like
Communications.
yeah communication skills?
Asking those questions afterwards, like, do you know what it means to get in behind and when to get in behind? If I say get in behind, do you know what that means? Like, that's that first week that they're here. The second week they're here, getting them used to the terminology. You know what I mean? Like half and half. I learned that in England. Hey, Joe, half and half. What does that mean? A lot of them don't even know. They're like half and half. What do you mean by that? And it's so that's what I think we've been so successful at because we've grown so much is I'm able to use the things I learned and explain it in a way where they're like, wow, okay. And they want more of that. Does that make sense?
What's your biggest? Obviously, you've had a lot of success stories. Would you say first and foremost you're a developmental agent scout, or would you say first and foremost you're a coach, or how would you kind of say your role is?
That's a good question. I think I think a coach first that coaches them through their career. I think that's the biggest thing. And obviously, I think I don't even say scouts. I have friends that are playing or that I played with or people that I've built relationship with where I call and I'll say, look, I got this kid Johnny, give him a chance. He's decent. I think you like him. And that's at all levels. So I don't know, maybe a scout second, but definitely a coach first.
So for someone listening to this, it's like, okay, Joe is a coach. He's a professional coach. I really want to play for his team. As a professional coach, what will make you say, I want to sign this player, I'm going to give him a chance?
You know, it's easy to sit up here and say that I take players because they're good or they're talented, but it has to be timing. It has to be the right fit. I have to have a certain amount of domestic players on my team, 12, and then I can have 12 internationals. But you have to fit into the mold of a lot of things, personality, what we need. To say I have a junior left back that he looks like he's going to get called into the national team, and we get paid if he gets called into the youth national team. I'm not going to sign a left back if you're just, I'm not going to take him off the pitch. So it depends. There's a lot of factors. But if I had to just sign a player, it would be coachable, is in it for the right reasons, understands that it's a long game, and they're not just here for 6 months to. A lot of them think that after 6 months they're gonna get sold. It's crazy. And like,
You know what I realized is that I'm not sure if you feel the same way, but in America, a lot of the players, what I've just recently realized is in America, a lot of the players are used to going to an ID camp or a showcase, having one good game and asking for an offer. Whereas in England, in Spain, in the rest of the world, you need to play consistently in a good team at a high level for a full season, prove yourself, and then you get the offer. So a lot of the Americans, when
maybe,
yeah,
maybe you get the.
maybe you get the offer. So if I and this is interesting because even in preseason, players come to me and they say, "Hey Sam, what have you got for me?" And I'm like, "We've been here for 2 weeks. What happened? Like for you to help a player in your team and you be like, okay, I like you, I trust you, I want to help you. What do they need to do in your team?"
In my team to help them move on.
Yeah.
They have to impact. They have to impact the game in some way consistently. So if I have a striker who's top three scorer in the league, I can market him somewhere because he's proven to score goals. But if I get a striker that's scored 5 goals in 20 matches, like what do you want me to do with that? And I tell them straight. Or a center back that we're at the bottom half of the table and you're starting every game. Like what how do you want me to move you? Yes, if you're good, there are exceptions. There are exceptions of someone who's good and has the right attitude, and we tried to help them. But I tell them right away. I told them the other day we had a meeting. I said, "Don't come to me. Look, we should have won our first 3 games, and I have some. I mean, I've got some good play. Like I've got some quality this year. We just don't have experience, which is, it is what it is. It's the truth. Like they haven't played any with the talent. We should have probably won our first 4 games. And I just had a talk with them about 2 or 3 days ago. I'm like, listen, don't come to me and ask for a move. Don't fucking do it because I'm gonna tell you right now, unless we finish at the top half of the table, I can't market you. I can't, you know. So I just have open communication because it's my name at the end of the day. You probably know the same. How you put your name there, you call a club and you say, look, I got this player, and he goes there and he's average or he's not doesn't make the team. You can't call that. You don't have credibility to call that contact again.
So explain to me, Joe, in simple terms. You have Olimpia Satu Mare, that's your professional club. What is SoccerViza? How would you explain it in simple terms?
Okay. SoccerViza is a program where you come in to find out about the industry and how it works. If you're good enough to make it to the next level, what it will take, and then lastly, to get an opportunity. We're more educational, more not education like you go to school, but like the raw truth. I've had talented guys, and this is great success stories. I've had talented guys come up to me and shake my hand and be like, "Coach, thank you so much. I'm going to quit football." I'm like, "Why? You can play at a good level." He's like, "Because I'm not going to do 3 years in the non-league scene and waste time away from my family and maybe make it." So that brings me happiness too. Not because they quit, because I was able to close the door that maybe no one ever told me how this road worked. You know what I mean?
So I want to talk about networking in football because I've been talking about this a lot recently, and I think probably similar to yourself. I mean, you had a lot better playing career I did, but I always think that like I played Division One college soccer not because I was Division One level player, but because I knew how to play the system and market myself. DMing players on Instagram, hey, can you send your coach my video? I played in the USL too, and I basically used that to network and meet people from all these different schools. And I think what I've come to realize after in recently, for our agency for Select Generation, I think that we're grown. I think online people kind of respect us a bit more now, and because we have a bit more value now and people respect us, it's easier for me to network because I have more value and people are like, okay, this guy's legit and he knows what he's doing. And I think that networking, when I was 18 and I used to go to or 19 and I used to go to networking seminars with my CV, with my resume, and I didn't really know what I was doing. And I think for a lot of footballers, they all get told that networking is really important, but they don't really know what it means or how to do it. So if I'm coming to you, Joe, and I'm saying, Joe, I really need to make connections, I really need to network, but I don't know what to do. What's the first thing I need to do? How would you describe networking?
We do a networking seminar, and it's probably everyone's favorite. And my first question is, okay, what's networking? They're like contacts, uh, getting things from people, and it's like, no, it's none of that. Networking is building relationships. If you don't build relationships, you cannot network. And they're like, well, what do you mean? Okay, how many of you message teams are like, hey, here's my CV, here's where I play? And it's like, how many of those do you think I get a day? Better yet, let's say you actually get it. Someone gives you a contact and says, hey, this guy's in football. Send him a message. And the first thing you do is, hey, I got your phone number from so and so. Here's my video. Who are you? You want me to do you a favor? It's already a red flag. I haven't met you. I know nothing about you. And you already want me to do you a favor. So what you need to do is build a relationship. And a relationship is being able to have a conversation, which is a skill. And I open up with things like, so when I used to network, I'd be like, hey, so Sam, I got your number from John. I appreciate your time. Look, I know you're in the game. I'm not asking for a trial. That's not what I'm doing. I want to find out the landscape in England and how it works. How's the football landscape work? Because now I'm asking for your advice. And what happens with your advice is I put you on a pedestal, and subconsciously everyone's like, oh wait, okay, he's asking for my advice. Not, at different. He's not coming here to just ask me to get him a trial. He's actually so that's how I always start, where it's like, all right, talk to me about the landscape of football in England. Okay. So I'm American. Is there a possibility of me playing there? Okay. Here's the level I've played at in America. Where do you think that translates into there? Cool. Well, look, I'm actually going to plan a trip to England in January. Would it be okay if we grabbed a coffee and talk more in person? It's the long game. And that's how I got trials for myself. Does that make sense?
So in terms of when you say the long game, Joe, yeah, but I really want trials now.
No, well, that's not how life works, my friend. And yes, you're from America where you can jump. Mommy and daddy can put you on ABC United or XYZ United, but that's not real life.
What would you say are the biggest differences in cultures between America and and Europe football?
Realism, realistic, how it works. It's funny, people they talk about pay to play like it's a problem. You can't sell players in America. In Europe, you can, and like little things that people just don't understand. It's just real. Like it's a real job. It's a real people put their money into it. They put their passion into it. In America, it's a hobby. Little Johnny starts to play football because Tim plays, right? So the soccer moms go together to the game. They put their little blanket out, eat grapes and oranges while Johnny and Tim play together. Where in England, it's not like that at 8, 9 years old. You're at Fulham's academy, you're at QPR's academy, and parents are like, fucking hell, they're like, how's he doing? Is he doing all right? You know what I mean? So that little thing is a different culture that no one speaks about.
What is your I got asked a question yesterday on a podcast. One of the players asked me, "What do you think about the pay to play system? Do you think it's fair?" And I struggled to reply, and I was thinking, it might not be fair, but who is it not fair for? Is it not fair because he was saying my MLS next club was 2 hours drive away? Is it your parents' fault for not driving you there? Is it the club for not putting one in your location? Is it the government? Is it the US youth soccer? But the game is not really fair. And I struggled to respond to that and I had to reflect on it a little bit. But I was curious about your opinion. Like, if I asked you, is the US youth soccer pyramid fair? What would you say?
Oh, I love this question. I love this question. So I ran a youth club that had 1,000 players. I took it from 30 to 1,000 in 2 years. It was pay to play. Okay. It was like, it was crazy. It was amazing. But how can it not be pay to play in America? How? So you have these clubs, they have to rent fields, they have to pay for insurance, they got to pay the coaches, they have to pay for tournament fees. If you do the math, if you're any type of businessman and you do that, maybe one of those teams that have 18 to 22 players, maybe they make 8 to 10 grand a year. Maybe that's after expenses. Okay. How is the club making money if it wasn't pay to play? How? So like it's not like in England where okay, or anywhere in Europe, like here with my youth team, they don't pay to play here because I own their card. No matter where they go, when they turn professional at 21, 22, 23, even if it's a small amount, guess what? FIFA Connect notifies me and says, "Hey, you're eligible for youth compensation." Who's paying for their youth compensation? So if you have a youth team in America from Miami, let's just say Miami FC, and he develops his kid to be really good, but he did it for free. How is he paying his bills? It's a business. It has to be pay to play. You can't sell players. You have teams in Brazil selling players for millions of dollars. Of course it's free. Of course it's free. If Inter Miami could buy a player and it was common from Miami FC, let's just say, then it wouldn't be pay to play either. But how can it not be pay to play? Sam, how? Like who's paying for the director of coaching? And who's paying? And you can't say like that's where the culture is different. I can go and they never wanted me on a big I almost went on a big podcast and then they turned it off because they know I would talk about this with US soccer. How? Here's another thing. In England, Johnny plays for Fulham, and Manchester United sees Johnny play for Fulham. And they want Johnny at Manchester United. So Fulham and Manchester United agree that he's going to be transferred for United and go play at United's academy. Can you imagine an American mom who has no idea about football? Okay. Their son's playing for Seattle. Okay. The mom and dad know nothing about football. And Inter Miami want to take the kid. Maybe it's getting a little better. Maybe. But this parent has no idea about football. Okay. And you go up to him and say, yeah, Johnny's going to move to Miami. She's going to say, what? What do you mean Johnny's going to move to Miami? Well, we want to put him in Inter Miami's academy. We want to buy him from Seattle. You're going to sell my son? That's real. That's a real culture problem. Now, which one's wrong? Neither, because America was on this culture and England was on this culture. But that's a big problem, Sam. And no one talks about that.
Mm.
Nobody, like, it can't be pay to play unless US Soccer comes in and says, look, you signed Johnny at 8 years old. If he goes at 11 to another team, you get compensated for it.
What
It's
what
always going to be paid.
what is your what is the thing that frustrates you most about US soccer?
The realism, like understanding the industry and the business. Everyone says it's all about money. You're in England. You know how much money's thrown around in football in England? It is all about money. It's the biggest entertainment business in the world. Like I hate when people say you got agents making a ridiculous amount of money, clubs selling players, TV deals. Nobody talks about that. I want to get promoted to the second division here because I made TV money. That's a business. I pay $500,000 out of my pocket. It would help me tremendously if we got promoted and I could get TV money. So I don't want to give you a chance. I need to know that you're going to help me get promoted because then I can stop paying $500,000 out of my pocket.
So for a player that's listening to this that really wants to be professional, most of our listeners are from America, and they don't really know how. Because I'm just thinking a player might be listening to this and they might be thinking, wow, in Europe it's so different. I'm never going to make it. How, as an American, can you compare and get your mindset ready to go and compete in Europe as a pro?
Great question. You become that culture. That's the difference with me. When I moved to England, I knew I wasn't going back to America. It was going to be hard for me to go back because I knew if I had any chance, even if it was the slightest one, I had to be in Europe because the culture, the environment, people. Romania's third division. There's eyes every game. Every game, somebody's here watching. Yeah, it's corrupt and all that, but for players, it's amazing. For a club owner, it's hard, but for players, I knew I had to be in Europe. It just mattered more. You're gonna go play you after I played non-league football and a chance to play in the FA Cup, and even if it was seventh division or to get promoted to the Conference South or whatever, you feel that pressure. Like everyone every week, even if it's twice a week, 3 days a week. Like, come on, fuck, we can do this. And then you're gonna go play UPSL where maybe one out of the 22 has aspirations of playing professional. Maybe one out of the 20. And even though the boys in England might not want to get to the highest level, because they love football and it's in their brain and culture and their blood, they want to get promoted. They want to see the club get promoted.
What if I tell you, Joe, I don't want to go and play third division in Romania. I want to play UPSL because I want to make the USL.
I say great, but I said maybe it can. I never want to take some. It's not. I'm not no football guru or soccer guru that's going to tell you it's not going to happen. But look at the numbers. How are you going to go from UPSL or MPSL to those leagues? How many of the players do they sign each year? Now, let's flip it. Let's go to Europe. How many players go from conference to league football? A decent amount. How many go from the Ryman North or South to the Ryman Prem or to the Conference South or the Conference? It happens a lot. We had a boy, Joe Nwoko, who played with us in casuals. He scored like in the first part of the season, like 12, 15 goals. I think he went to Woking, actually. He did. He went to Woking from the Ryman South. Where do you see that happening in the States? Where? And that would be my argument. And they don't have any. I just spoke to a boy now before we spoke. And he's playing UPSL for District 10 in DC. I'm like, I never heard of them. How are you getting a move? I've never heard who they are.
How do you get respect as a footballer, right? Because if I play at MLS Charlotte FC, LAFC, I have respect on my resume. If I play UPSL, NPSL, if I'm growing up playing for a non-MLS academy, ECNL, and you are telling me you need to have respect, I have no respect for you. No one knows about you as a footballer. I have no respect for you. No one knows about you. How do I get people to know about me?
You have to go somewhere where you make a name for yourself and you have to be consistent. You have to make an impact. And yeah, it's hard. You sometimes if you're a center back or a right back, it's hard. But there are players that have made an impact. Sam, you agree luck's a big part too?
I think that the harder you work, the luckier you get. And I did actually something, I actually spoke about this today. I was saying players need four things. I think they need technical ability. I think everyone needs to be technically good, obviously. I think they need the right mindset. The more people I speak to, it's all about mindset, believing in yourself, having confidence. And then the last two, I think, is a network and luck. And I think you need a network because you need to be put yourself out in front of people to know about you. And then you need luck because you need to be in the right moment, the right situation at the right time. But I think the harder you work, the luckier you get.
I was sleeping in airports. I was away from home for 4 or 5 years. So that was work. And not just on the pitch, but being away, working two jobs in England. I worked at Fitness First and Gap, and like that's work too. And that created luck for me.
So what do you think about the college system?
I think it's a great vehicle. If you want to use football as a vehicle to get your education, I think it's amazing.
What do you think about the college system to go pro?
I think it's I think it's the same as UPSL and NPSL. They
Because
know who they want already. The coaches that have the network you talk about, the big coaches have their network and they try to push those players on. But now you have MLS academies that do you even want to go to college because they're taking the boy. If they're taking anyone, they're not taking a college player anymore. They're taking
this is why I think college, and one of the reasons why we started our clubs was because you can go to the NCAA, play on a 30, 40 player roster, or you can come and play in Europe on a 20 player roster for 10 months. And it's like the amount of games you get and the level that you're playing at. And I think that the college system is going to struggle soon because the top MLS clubs that players used to go to Duke, Wake Forest, Clemson, UCLA. Now those players are going to go straight to MLS Next Pro. So I think college is going to get even more internationals coming over, and there's going to be less and less pathways for Americans. I mean, I don't know how you feel.
I agree, but then Trump's trying to stop that, right? Where you can only have a certain amount of internationals now, right? Like it's getting crazy. So I agree. I think the college system is going to die out slowly, unless you market it properly or go get your education and use it as a great vehicle to get your education.
So, Joe, I just got a couple more questions for you. If I'm 16 and I'm listening to this podcast and I'm thinking, wow, there's a lot of different pathways out there. I need to be realistic. I need to understand my level. How do you understand your level?
Well, a program like yours, a program like mine, where you go to Spain, even if you can't sign there but you go see where do you stand against players your age in a different culture in a different country, first and foremost, and be realistic with yourself, right? Because mom and dad are not going to be realistic. They're, oh, he can play in Spain. We went out there, we played against the Spanish boys. We can definitely, but nah. You as a footballer, when you're on the pitch playing against someone from another country that's your age, where do you stand? and how far are you from it?
Mm.
That's how I would say you need experience. Experience is the best teacher.
What's been your biggest challenge in helping players or advising players or giving them kind of mentorship advice? What's your biggest challenge that you get consistently?
They want to go to the top right away, so I can put them in like a club where my friend actually runs a good, like he trains well. It'll be a good environment, and he will be one of the best players on that team. But he's going to build a name. But they don't take it. Like, hey, I give you 500 euros a month plus a car, and it's a chance to be here for a year and a half, and then we can move on. No, 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 no. I want to go there now. How? Nobody, like, no disrespect, but you don't have any type of, nobody knows you. How? It's hard to get. There's players in Spain that are fourth division players that are looking for clubs in Iceland, Finland, Norway. You're competing with that, and they've got a better resume than you or CV than you.
And, and Joe, I just got five last quick fire questions for you before we end this. First one is, what's one skill that every aspiring pro must master?
And game awareness, knowing what's around you and how to react to what's around you.
What's the biggest misconception players have about going pro?
That once you go pro, you're always going to be a pro, and it's going to be sunshine and rainbows.
What's the most underrated quality that scouts look for?
What's the most underrated consistency? What's the most underrated quality scouts look for? Good question. Um, I'd say consistency through the match, being able to do not just moments of magic, but consistent, being really good at what you do consistently.
What's the best advice you've ever received as a coach?
On to the next one.
And lastly, if you could give every 16-year-old wanting to be a pro one piece of advice, what is it?
Go out there and see the world of football and understand that. Understand what the world of football really is. Every culture is different. I had kids in Costa Rica that didn't have shoes, and you should see the level on them. And you need to go see that yourself to understand, well, you're really a small fish in a big pond.
Amazing. Joe, I really appreciate your time. That was a really informative, interesting episode. I love how passionate you are about everything you talk about, and I'm a fan of Satu Mare and SoccerViza. I love what you're doing, and yeah, really appreciate your time.
Sam, all the best. And if I'm ever in England, can I look you up?
Perfect, of course.